of 6 months, me and Rick have converted a Harley Davidson Fat Boy into a Harley Davidson drift-trike sitting right behind us right now. Today is the day we're starting the engine. Will it start? You have to tune in to find out. This is the Tailbank Garage.
Like I'm guilty with most projects, I took a look at this and thought a couple of Saturdays of work and this thing will be on the road. Yeah. Using one side then and it won't...
If you don't know what you're doing, don't do it.
I tell you what, it's been 6 months, a lot of late nights, a lot of weekends work, and it was a whole lot more than I first anticipated. Before we can have a crack at getting this thing started, there are a few more jobs left to do. First up, I picked up the frame for my mate Kyle, who did an epic job painting it. Hard to believe this was in such a big fire. Starting to get really excited now. We're going to start bolting things into this for the final time. Let's get into it. Then a very special package arrived from the legends at Trash Performance. So when I was over in America at Trash Performance there in Phoenix, I was talking to the founder Nick and Eric there and said, guys, what do you reckon I need to do to this bike given what a thrashing it's going to probably receive? And they said, look, you need one of our billet clutch housings. So the guys have sent me over this little box. Time for me to continue pulling the standard clutch apart. I've got to press bearings out of this old standard clutch housing and press them into the new Trask billet one we've got here. So plenty to do. I'm going to get stuck into it, keep trying to get this thing started for Christmas. The axle also proved to be a huge challenge for us. The one used for the Outlaw cart was made from aluminium, which is a little bit too soft for us and was also too short. So Robbie O'Brien from FlexiCut Engineering sourced us a nice strong steel one that was an appropriate length for the Widowmaker. He also helped us cut the keyways in as well, which locates the hubs, the brake disc and the sprocket carrier as well, so we're good to go. If I ride the bike and the line is exactly there, I'm in the centre. Don't let that go in your eye. Now we also had a bit of a lock issue with the Widowmaker as well. Traditionally a Harley Davidson doesn't need a lot of lock to turn a corner, but when you're turning one into a drift trike, you need a lot of lock to be able to correct those awesome slides that we're going to be having. So what we did is cut the lock stuffs off the triple clamps and then we moved the fuel tank back so that the forks didn't hit it anymore. That gave us a lot of lock and we fixed the issue that we're going to have. Who invented the spring?
Bruce Springsteen. I don't want to touch it because if I spill it off, I'll get in trouble. So I'd rather you get in trouble than me.
We're already drifting. Look at that.
Ow. You reckon this thing will work?
Of course. It might be just a push trike, but that's going to be fun.
Well, the best we'll get, I reckon, is this thing doing 2 laps and then going, yeah. Can I press the button?
Yeah. All right, you can lower it, bro. It was important we put the bike on the floor to check all of the ride height. On the back, we have a little bit of adjustment where we can lift the axle up and down on the mount that I've made. And on the front, you can slide the forks up and down through the triple tree and that lowers the bike to the ground. Yes. Oh, look at the frame height.
There you go. Is that good or bad?
It's awesome. Initially, I wasn't sure how much we could actually move the forks up and whether we could get the front low enough, because a normal Harley has a fair bit of suspension and quite a high ride height for normal road conditions. But for a drift trike, we wanted it right down on the ground, and we were able to achieve that really well.
Oh, it's gonna turn. Stop it. Oh, God. Hands are greasy.
We'll push it up the hill and come down the hill.
Really?
Yeah. Who's going to ride it down the hill?
Me.
It's going to have no brakes.
He wouldn't let me go down the hill because he thought I was going to crash into something. We could push it all the way up to there. We roll it down and we can put some brake fluid in.
There's no brake lines to hold brake fluid.
Really?
Really.
Can't you just chuck it in there?
We'll just pump it straight out the back. Jeez, it's hard to steer.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard to steer?
Because the wheels are They're really grippy.
Well, it's because of the locked axle.
Yeah.
So it wants to go straight only. So we need to have the engine going and have it wheel spinning.
Yeah. What? What?
What's a locked diff? It doesn't want to turn. Let go. That'll do.
To here? Who's going to ride it?
I'll ride it.
Oh.
Geez, it's comfy.
How are you going to stop?
Turn the wheel, it'll stop.
Really?
Isn't it cool?
Oh, God.
No brakes. Just working through the final touches here on the Widowmaker. I've put a clutch lever on the handbrake here, so you can rip the clutch and handbrake at one time. And I've also got, obviously, the standard clutch. I've teed these two together and fed it into the clutch. Now, obviously, I thought that'd work, not knowing much about it, and it clearly doesn't, because when you push one clutch lever up here, it just feeds the fluid into this reservoir rather than into the clutch. So the only way it currently works is if you pull both clutch levers simultaneously, which you're obviously not able to do. So I've had a quick rethink on that. I've got a little brake valve here that's on a solenoid. So I'm going to put two of these within the system, one that leads to each clutch. So when you grab one clutch, it will shut the line off to the second clutch and vice versa. I'm going to try and wire that to the headlight switch, which we're not going to use, so that I can dictate which clutch is active from the headlight switch, and away we go. So I'm going to try and wire that one in, and we are getting pretty close. In the middle of this episode, we also snuck down to Winton and I jumped inside the Supercar for the first time in 2 years. And I'll tell you what, it's a pretty big thrill when you jump in something like that. It's got so much horsepower, puts a smile from ear to ear, and it was really cool to throw a few laps down as well. So I actually had to go to Aubrey, and Todd and young Mason were testing the old Nissan Supercar of Todd's on the same day. So we stopped in, I bought my helmet and that, and had a couple of laps.
He went pretty good because he hasn't driven a supercar in 2 years, but he actually went surprisingly well.
At this stage, still no major plans for me to jump in a supercar in an Enduro or anything like that, but we'll see how the new car goes on the track. Who knows what the future holds. Somehow we thought this day would never come, but it's time to put some fuel in it, check if the thing's got spark, check if it's starting to pump the oil through, check all the electrical systems and everything else, and try and kick this thing in the guts. All right, so we've got the battery in. I've plugged all the wiring into everywhere I know. There's lots of plugs that aren't going anywhere. We've charged the battery. Let's see if it's got some life on. How cool.
Yeah.
I'm not going to start it. Come and have a look. Dash says no petrol. It's got ABS warning. It's got an oil warning. It's got lots of warnings. I don't know if that's going to trip it so that we can't start it.
If you're wondering why I'm moving weirdly, I have a skateboard.
So the first thing we're going to do is see if it turns over, and we're going to turn it over without the spark plugs in it. I've pulled them out. We're going to keep turning it over to get the engine to pump the oil from the tank that I've made all the way through all the components on the engine, and it will return back into the tank. We're going to do that before we try and start it, because if it starts with no oil in the engine, it will destroy itself quickly. It may destroy itself because of me building it incorrectly as well, so there's that.
How loud is it going to be?
You just go woo, 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 woo.
The
Ready?
alarm.
Crank it over.
Right.
Ooh. Keep an eye in there. Ready? Back a bit because it might don't want to spray at you. Can you see? And here's what it's going to sound like. Ready?
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
Again. It's alive! Sort of. Put the plugs back in. Do you know what a spark plug does?
It ignites the pistons, and the pistons give the whole engine power.
Pretty close. The piston comes up and compresses the air and petrol in the cylinder.
And
The
lights a little
spark plug
fire.
then clicks and sets a spark off, creates a little explosion in there which forces the piston back down. And that's what turns the crank and turns all the gears and makes this thing go crazy. All right. Petrol. We need petrol. This is the final thing, mate. I can't believe we're almost at the point where we can see whether this is a complete disaster or something that could work. So when we try and start it, we've got to see if the oil light goes off, because the oil's really important. Castrol thinks so. 6 months it's taken us to get to this point. You ready?
Yeah. I reckon it'll go, but I don't reckon that now.
Okay, you tell me when to start him.
You can start it.
It works.
We got that thing started and it is sick. The first bit, it sounded like you're doing a 56,000 gallon water drum and spinning it so all the water comes out. Gung, 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 gung.
And hearing it fire up for the first time, I tell you what, we've been looking forward to this day for so long now, and it was so exciting and so cool to see it fire up for the first time. So now we've got to make sure it's pumping oil. If it's not pumping oil, mate, we're not out of the woods yet, and it will stop. And it'll stop really aggressively and probably throw parts of the engine at you.
It's better than nothing.
Is it pumping oil?
Yeah. You ready?
Yeah, so hold it down until it starts. Yep. Yes! I can't believe it, to be honest with you. There's so many things along the way that I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is going to hurt us or not. I'm not sure if that's gone in the right way. I think this could be backwards. The electrical systems, you know, there's so many plugs that aren't plugged in because I don't have blinkers, headlights. I don't have the ABS system hooked in, and there's so many wires running in that thing, ECUs for everything. So I can't believe that we plugged it all in, worked out what the code was to make the thing fire up, and away we went. Let's put the seat on. And it's ready to test, mate. We can actually put it on the ground and give it a go.
Yeah. Go!
Well, what are they doing to low him down? It was so cool jumping on this thing, whacking it in first gear and spinning the tyres on the concrete here. It smokes them up so rapidly. It's got so much horsepower and so much torque. So from here with the Widowmaker, it's time for us to give it a little bit of a fine tune, fix up some of the oil lines and just tidy a few things up, and then find somewhere where I can really let this thing loose. Drift-trike.
Luckily we don't have fire alarms in here.
Got it going before Christmas.
Yep. I don't know why this is my job. I didn't sign up for this.